Matt. Sorry to interrupt your workout here, but are you ready to record first on fraud?
I am ready. I am doing exactly what I was asked, which was to get prepared for squatting.
No. Squatters, like squatters' rights, not squatting.
Oh, good, because my biscuits are burning right now. I am so on fire. Oh,
That was a deep spot. I'm impressed. I am impressed. Um, you know, we are going to light this up, but while you are recovering and catching your breath, I just want to remind everyone, if you are tuning in for the first time, subscribe in the link in our show notes for episode drops. But Matt, I want to share a story with you. So, I love real estate. I mean,
there's
I'm obsessed with
nothing
it.
better than real estate. Love it.
So one of my favorite pastimes is going to look at model homes. Like, they're so beautiful, right?
I know you just want to move in. You walk in there, it's this beautiful, pristine. It's almost like a reminder of here's a house you'll never be able to have because it'll never look good. No matter what you do, it'll never look this good. So you just want to move in to that model home.
And that's exactly what happened in this case that I want to talk about. Model home, new subdivision development, and people go through the tour. They go into a house and they go inside and they change the locks and then they refuse to leave.
Right. You mean we can do that?
No, you can, but you should not. That is going to be my lawyer thing for you today. Don't do that.
Oh,
But that's what these people did. And they recorded deeds at the same time. So when the developer contacted the police and they showed up, they were like, hey, no, we have a recorded deed with our name on it. We own this property.
the cops can't question that. They're just going to say, all right, looks like it's not our problem. This is a civil matter.
That's exactly right. They say that's civil. You have to go address this with the courts. And we all know how fast the legal system moves.
Actually, at the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, at the lamppost outside the Supreme Court, there's tortoises holding up those lights, symbolic of how slowly the justice system moves.
Yeah. And that's what this home builder had to do. They had to go hire an attorney, file a lawsuit, and get these people evicted. And yeah, it took a lot of time and money. And by the time they got these people out of the house, they had totally trashed it. No surprise, right?
No surprise, and good luck trying to get any kind of recourse against these individuals. So you got them out, but now what?
Right. So while these folks were really brazen with their fraud scheme, really in your face with it, it actually is complicated by property law.
Property law doesn't necessarily make it easy. In fact, when a deed is recorded, it is presumptively valid. So even if it's a forged deed, on its face, if it looks good, it's presumed to be good.
Right. So the owners would have to go to court to do a quiet title action to get the property back in their name. That seems unfair, right? But that's how property law works. And that's why those squatters were able to stay there for as long as they did while the real owners went and cleared title. Now, squatting itself isn't necessarily illegal until the owner says, hey, you got to get out, because then it becomes a trespass at that point. But squatting is one of the alternative pathways to ownership of property, and it's otherwise known as adverse possession.
Yep. Through adverse possession, you can actually become the owner of the property and recognized as the valid title holder of that property.
And it's not as easy as that, right, Matt? I mean, you and I are both lawyers, and there are certain elements. This is certainly not going to be a class on adverse possession today at all. But, adverse possession as a broad legal concept is a person claiming a right to title. It has to be continuous, exclusive, hostile, and open and notorious. And laws have, some variations depending on your state there, but that's generally what it is.
A lot of states also require you to pay taxes on the property.
Right. And that's part of that open and notorious, is that you are holding yourself out as the owner of the property. So that is a non-traditional way to, property ownership. It's not very common, but it does happen. And at the end of the statutory period, and it depends on the state, but the person can either automatically have title, or they have to go to, court and file quiet title action and be adjudicated the rightful owner. But there is a pathway that is not the traditional buying the property, and those are those squatters.
Fraudsters are gaming the system now, and they can get actual legal recognition of the property, even though there may be intentional fraud. So by moving in, by even recording a forged deed and paying taxes and being there present for a while, they can become the owner of the property. So we're seeing them game that system and take advantage of these state laws.
So, that's something we don't see very often, like I said, but it does happen. But the type of scam that we see more frequently in the news is the fake rental scams. And that is where a fraudster impersonates a landlord and rents out to an unsuspecting victim, making off with the rent. And there was a news story out of San Francisco where a family moved into a rental property. They paid $10,000. Yes, their deposit, the first month, last month, security deposit, all that. And then 3 days later, knock, 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 knock. Real landlord, real owner shows up and says, I didn't rent this to you. You need to leave. And out on the streets, this family went.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the rental listing looked legit because the scammers had cloned it from the real listing. And so it had the appearance of legitimacy. It wasn't just some, shady Craigslist ad. It looked real.
It breaks my heart to hear people are victimized like this because they're trying to do the best thing for their family. They're usually moving into a new life and finding the most essential needs of housing, yet they become the victims.
Yeah, and this story is like many other people who get ripped off in rental scams, but there's a new twist on this scam. And that's where the tenant knows that the lease is fake. And they sign a squatter's addendum to the fake lease. So they're aware when they go into it that the person representing themselves is basically more of like a property finder and has gained access to the property. Usually, it's unlawful, right?
Yeah.
And they are now renting out this property. The renter is aware that it is not the real landlord. They sign this addendum, and they are told eventually the real owner will show up and you're probably going to have to leave, but that landlord might pay you to leave.
That landlord will be probably assessing, is it cheaper for me to go to court and evict them? Or is it going to be better and easy for me just to pay him some money to leave? So no matter what, the landlord is going to be out some money.
The courts take, so long. If you're a landlord in this situation, you're just, balancing time versus money. You're going to be spending that money. So would you rather it happen sooner and give the people the money? And that's what these renters are also betting on, is pay a little bit of money. You get shelter for however long, it could be 3 days, it could be 3 months until the real owner shows up. Or landlord, if it's a property management company, and ask you to leave, but then you take the chance that they might actually pay you more than what you've put in to the property to leave.
So I know we've talked before about how, setting up Google alerts, that can be very helpful, but it seems though that this may be falling through the cracks and being missed by Google. Is Google alerts the end all and be all to help someone prevent this type of tenant landlord fraud?
Matt, that's actually a really great question, because Google alerts are not foolproof. Some of these rental scams are set up through online ads like Craigslist or social media sites, but they don't allow search engines to index their listings.
What do you think landlords and potential renters should be looking at and doing, since Google may not pick everything up?
Here's the move for owners. You still want to set up the Google alert with your full address, but also you need to search your address manually on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, any social media sites that have rental listings. Do it more often if the property is vacant. Set up cameras. I recommend setting up cameras on the property. You're going to see somebody coming in and out. And making regular physical inspections of the property. It helps. And if you're a property manager or a real estate agent with a vacant sale or a rental listing, check the property frequently. Don't just list it and forget it.
And I think you should be nice to your nosy neighbors because they actually know what's going on. Give them your contact information. Talk to your neighbors.
You know what, Matt? You don't know how many frauds are caught this way, where the neighbor is aware of the owner's situation, whether it's a rental or even a vacant lot for sale. They know that the property isn't actually being listed, and they're the ones who alert the owners that something suspect is happening at the property. So talk to your neighbors and let them know what your plans are with your property. And you never know, one of them might save you from a fraud.
I think that's good advice for the landlords and the property owners, but there's also some things that renters should be doing and looking at to make sure they're dealing with the right owner. And one easy way is look up the tax information on the property and who the owner is. So you can be doing your own due diligence to make sure that you are entering into a lease with the actual owner. Ask questions. Verify that the members of an LLC are the actual members. And it's very easy. This is all public information, either on the tax IDs or on the Secretary of State sites to see who the members of corporations or LLCs are.
Yeah, and you can't just take their word for it because they could just say, I'm Matt Sager, right? So ask for ID, get proof of that ownership and their authority to act on behalf of a corporation or a, LLC, and independently verify their phone numbers, things like that. You can Google just about everyone. It's really impossible not to find someone. Everybody has a presence online right now in some way, shape, or form. And so verifying people is something that you can do really easily. Also, just avoiding cash apps or wire transfers to strangers when you're renting property. You want to tour the property in person. I know that's not always something people can do, especially if they're moving from across the world or across the country, but get a video tour. Make sure that that landlord has access to the property. It's not foolproof. A lot of fraudsters will break into a property or have access to the property in other ways, but at least get a tour of the property. No sight unseen,
No sight unseen.
leases. And then I would also say confirm that the lease matches the local laws. Whether you have a local attorney review the lease is never a bad idea. A lot of fraudsters will use just some kind of fake lease. It's not real. When you see what they've actually used, it doesn't resemble a real lease. So make sure that the lease is real. And if you need to reach out to a local real estate attorney to help you with that, that's always advisable. And don't forget, where available, First American offers policies that can cover adverse possession and post-policy fraud. So discuss with your First American representative how to include those coverages in your policy. Get that Eagle coverage because you never know who might record a deed, change the locks, and start calling your house their home. And with that, Matt, I'm going to wrap this up. Everyone, thank you for listening to First on Fraud. Subscribe to hear next month's spooky web of deception tales on dead man deeds. Matt, I cannot wait for your costume. I've seen your costumes in years past. I can't wait to see what you do for us.
Well, I can't wait either. Sounds like I'm getting set up for something big here.
You're big, and the setup is we love all of our listeners on First on Fraud, and we hope that this is informative and entertaining. And until next time, be fierce, fraud fighters.
Yep. Thank you for joining.
This episode is copyright 2025 by First American Financial Corporation, all rights reserved.